Hello and congratulations, you finally made it to level 10, general. So for this level, we're going to be talking about percent and percent change. Our objectives for this section are to 1, solve percent problems involving proportions, 2, solve percent problems using percent equations, and 3, to find percent change. Now I know on your goal sheet, we only have space for 2, so you can go ahead and just choose 2 out of the 3 to put on there. Here is our APK question. You can go ahead, take some time, answer that, and then just if you have any questions on it, make sure you ask. So to start off, we have our last vocabulary word, which is percent of change. So this says it occurs when an increase or decrease is expressed as a percent. So a hint or characteristic of this could be, let's say you're going shopping and one of your favorite pairs of jeans are originally $50. Well, if they're 25% off, you can figure that out by doing the percent proportions and percent equations that we're going to be doing in a minute. But this would be a hint or characteristic, 25% off, 25% up. A example of this would be 50 minus 40 over 50 equals percent over 100. Now this is how you're going to be able to find percent of change. Don't worry if you're not understanding this right now, but we will get into this shortly. A non-example would be something like so go ahead, you're going to want to write that down. And then we're going to go ahead and get into the meat of the lesson today. Alrighty, so we're going to start off by finding a percent using the percent proportion. So when we're doing that, you can look here at the key concept. It states that you can represent A is P% of B using the percent proportion shown below. In the proportion, B is the base and A is part of the base. So an example of this would be, say, we're talking about the class, and the class has, 25 kids in it. Out of those 25, only 13 have a dog at home or have a pet of some sort. So this would be considered the whole, which is 25, and the part would be 13. And that's expressed here where it says A over P equals P over 100. So then we could find the percent of the students in the class that have pets. And the way we would do this is where it says the example down here. If we were to follow it, so we already know 13 out of 25, we'd set that equal to P and put 100 underneath that. Because remember, with percents, they are out of 100, because 100% usually is our top score that we can get for grades. So always think of kind of like back to grades and how percents work. So we're going to do our first example. So the way this is set up is the number is over of what equals percent over 100. So that's literally just the same as part over the whole equals percent over 100. And you might have remembered part over whole because we use those terms when we're talking about fractions. So yes, it does look like a fraction, but don't worry, it's a lot more fun to solve than fractions are. So here's our first example. So it says 10 is what percent of 200? So we know we have 10, but we're trying to find the percent. What percent? So in order to do this, we're going to need to set up the proportion. 10 over 200 equals x over 100. So whenever you're trying to find a percent, you're always going to be looking for the number over 100, no matter what. Always looking for x over 100, because like I said before, percents are over 100. So again, we're looking, because remember right here it says 10 is of. So number is over of what? So with that, we know that 10 is going to go over 200 and be set equal to x over 100. So in order to solve a proportion, you're going to do what is called cross multiplying or cross products. You probably heard this couple years ago, maybe not, maybe this is totally new. If so, awesome. So how this works is what you're going to do is you're going to multiply the two numbers across. And you're going to do this for both sets. I might actually do this one in a different color just so you can kind of see that they're two different numbers that you're putting together. So we have the 10 times 100 right here, and then we have the 200 times x right here. And now, just like before, you're going to want to obviously first simplify each side as much as possible. And when you do that, you're going to end up with 1,000 equals 200x. And now, if you're looking at this, to me, it looks like just a one-step equation. So to me, it looks like just a one-step equation. So from here, you're going to divide both sides by 200, because again, you want to get x by itself. And when you do that, you end up with x equals 5. So the question said what percent. So when you have x equals 5, you can automatically assume that it's going to be 5%. All right, so now we're going to find a percent using the percent equation. So this is a little different than the proportion. I personally would prefer using the proportion. I like being able to see that the two sets of numbers are equal to each other, and I know that then I can just cross multiply, set them equal to each other, and I can solve the equation from there. For some of you, it might not be as simple as that. So the percent equation states you can represent A is P% of B using the percent equation shown below. In the equation, A is the part of the base B. So again, it's the same similar definition of part and whole. But with this one, instead of putting like a number over another, so instead of doing like 15 over 25, you're going to do 15 equals P% times 25. So in order for us to solve this, it's actually very similar to the other equation. With this one, you're going to multiply the two numbers that you have over here together. So you'll end up with 25x. We'll just keep it at x because it's just P%. So again, variables, you can interchange them. You're going to divide by 25 on both sides, and then that'll give you your percent. So now we're going to go through a little example on how to do that. So again, here's what it's going to look like. Number is equals percent times of what? Because remember, with multiplication, it needs to be within parentheses. So again, 10 is what percent of 200? So we're trying to figure out what percent. So in order to do that, we're going to set it up just like how the equation said. We're going to have 10 equals x times 200, because remember, we're trying to figure out what percent. From here, multiply the numbers together. So 10 is already simplified. So 2x times 200 equals 200x. Divide 200 by both sides because we want to make sure that we're going to get x alone. So when we do that, the 200s here are going to cross out, and you're going to be left with 10 over 200. When you do that, you're going to end up with 0.05 equals x. Now, 0.50x definitely looks a lot different than 5, right? So what we're going to need to do here is we are going to have to remember that when we are dividing here, remember, this is still 5%. This number right here is 5%. But this is the one step. So instead of just leaving it and saying, oh, we got 5 is our percent, here we're going to have to multiply our number by 100. Because 0.05 times 100, if you do that math, you get 0.05, cross out 0.00, and 1.2, 1.2, 0.05. So 5%. So that's the only extra step that you'll have to do with the equation compared to the proportion. Another reason why I think the proportion is just a lot easier, because you're already getting that 100 out of there, and you're going to end up with your whole number for your percent. So now this is just kind of going to be a little piece of advice for you. So you can use this site or page to find a percent, find a part, and find a base. So if you look here, it says find a percent. So it says what percent of 63 is 3.5. So remember, is over of, which is what we have. So 3.5 over 6 over 3 equals P over 100. So they are showing you both the proportion and the equation here, just so in case you prefer doing the proportion, or if you prefer doing the equation, you can do either or. So now finding a part, now this is going to be a little bit different. So when you're finding a part, so it says what is, but you have your of, and you have your percent. So here it's just plugging in what you know into the equation or proportion. So we don't know what the is, so that's why they just put us with the variable a, over of, which we know is 125, and then they set it equal to 32 over 100. Since we know what the percent is, we just put that 32 over 100, because if you were to divide it out, you'd get 0.32, which is 32%. And again, they put that right in the equation, so we're trying to find the part, which is A, and they set it equal to 32% times 125. And then to find a base, it's very similar again. And so they gave us the percent, which is 25%, but we're trying to find the of what number is 11. So we can see that 25% of what number is 11. So to do this, we're going to set it up as, because we have is 11, so we're going to put the 11 over the b, because we're trying to figure out the what part, the what piece of this. And then we're going to set it equal to 25 over 100, since we know what percent we are trying to get to. Alrighty, thank you guys for holding on, and we are on the last part of this entire chapter. So if you remember from the beginning of the video, our vocabulary word for this section is percent of change. And look, here we are finally at the percent of change slide. This is going to be the last slide that you're going to have to watch, complete all your activities, and you'll be done with your equation boot camp. So let's get going. So percent change is the ratio of the amount of change to the original amount. So it says percent change, or P% equals amount of increase or decrease over the original amount. So you're going to see over here two different things. I would definitely make sure that you write these down. This one says amount of increase is the new over the original, or new amount minus the original amount. And then for decrease, you have original over minus new. So you're going to want these just to know them. Honestly, I would say you might not want to memorize specifically if it's just an increase or a decrease, but knowing more of the set of change that is occurring. So it's the change. So whether it's the new amount minus the original, or the original minus the new, over the original. To think, so it's just so you can have more of an understanding. Basically, on the top, if you are doing a percent, you're not going to have really like a negative percent. If you do, that would become a decrease, but we'll show that. I'm going to show that further on down this page. So it says to find a percent of change, use the proportion, change over original, equals percent over 100. So remember, we're trying to find percent of change. So the percent's going to be the one thing that we're trying to find continuously throughout this section. So to find a percent decrease, so this is our example that we have for this one. So it says the original was 20 and the new is 4. So to solve this, remember, we're doing the change over the original. So you're going to find the change. So to do that, you're going to do 20 minus 4, which would give you 16. And then remember, it's the original under the change equals P, or percent, over 100. So we know what the change is. So we're going to put that change over 20, because it says right here that 20 is the original, and we're going to set that equal to x over 100. So to solve this, we're going to cross multiply like we did in the first section. So 100 times 16 and 20 times x. When you do that, you're going to get 1600 equals 20x. You're going to want to get x alone. So you'll divide both sides by 20. And when you do that, you're going to have x equals 80 or 80%. And now to find a percent increase, these are the steps that you're going to follow. So you might actually be able to tell that with the decrease, it went from 20 to 4. And now with the increase, it's going from 32 to 40. So you're not going to actually have to tell us whether it's an increase or a decrease, but it's going to be nice to know how to find them when you are doing them. So to find the change, again, you're going to find the change by doing the original minus the new. So basically, whenever you are subtracting your original and new number, whether the new number or the original is bigger, so say it was 32 minus 40 and you ended up with -8, you can always just put your absolute value bars around there and make that a +8. It's just going to make it a lot easier, and hopefully it'll be able to make the proportion make more sense for you. So again, you're going to set up your proportion. It's going to say x is 8 over 32 equals x over 100, because again, we're trying to find this percent of change. So cross multiply. 8 and 100 and 32 and x. When you do that, you'll end up with 800 equals 32. Divide 32 on both sides. The 32s will cross out, and you'll be left with 25 or 25%. So that is how you're going to solve for percent of change. If you continue on, you'll see that these are the worksheet problems. So I would say maybe give these a go and see how you do. Just before you start working on any of the other activities, you kind of make sure that you have a good base. Here is the final G question. Take your time, answer this. Remember, this is on your goal sheet. I hope you enjoyed doing the equation boot camp, and have a great day.